There are three strategies that are typically overlooked in our retirement planning, and they can have a very large impact on our retirement. They are rebalancing your portfolio, minimizing your taxes, and also understanding what your assets need to do that are in your best interests. We'll explain each in the following segments, and they're going to need a paradigm change in our thinking, as many go against our previous assumptions and the advice we're receiving today. That said, our retirement world is much different than our earlier employment income world. We need to understand what those changes are and then change our strategies and tactics so they're going to fit this new reality. One of the first things that needs to change is with our investment portfolio. We've been letting it accumulate during our employment years. And the vast majority of our investments have been in equities, and this has worked very well because we can live off our income, and when the market has a downturn, we just wait for recovery because it always recovers. But in retirement, we have a new model where that doesn't work. We probably need to draw down on those assets. We're even forced to draw down on our retirement funds by government-forced required minimum distributions. So the new reality is that any losses which normally would recover over time, but we're drawing down on these assets, they don't recover as they did in the past as we draw down on them. There's a reason that all respectable retirement planning books recommend reducing risk in retirement. But we don't make these changes that we need to because we keep on the path we've always been on, which may not be the best one. It's convenient to continue as we have for so many years, and of course it will always be recommended by those who benefit from their fees and compensation if we continue on the present course instead of moving to safety. In general, a healthy, rebalanced portfolio should protect 2/3 or more of your funds from losses. Those funds are yours to use and not lose. Second issue is on taxes, and there's several misnomers that we need to correct. First one is that we will always pay less taxes in retirement when we no longer have our income where our taxes are based. It'll always be less than it will be in retirement, but that's not always the case. It can be in the short term when we look at living off our Social Security and using our savings to supplement that. But there's other considerations, like our qualified funds in our retirement accounts. We can be looking at being in higher tax brackets in the future than we are now. And that surprised many of our clients when we project their RMDs, the impact they're going to have on their future taxes. As an example, let's look at someone who has $100 in an IRA. We can project that in the future, it'll put them in a 22% tax bracket, but they can wash tax out of that $100 at 12% now, maybe move it to a Roth. To make the math easy, let's assume that that $100 today doubles and will be $200 in the future. Even if it might be 15 years, time doesn't matter. We'll have $200 at some point, pay 22% tax, which leaves us with $156. After we pay those taxes of $44. But if we pay 12% today, which will leave us with $88, then we invest this in the same way and for the same period of time without any changes, that money's going to double and we're going to end up with $176 and not $156. There can be other factors to consider, but in the majority of cases, we should look to wash tax out when we can. If there is tax, we should consider paying it when it's at the lowest, even when it may be now instead of the future. There are many reasons that we do not do this, and just to mention two. First is, we have a paradigm that we keep the base high and it always grows, and the top line will be so high, we pay the taxes, we'll end up with more money in between. The second factor is our advisors, who rarely consider long-term taxes. They would never want us reducing our accounts because that reduces their fees and compensations in the short term. We've talked with many advisors and agree that even understanding what might be better for our clients in the long run, they will not encourage short-term actions that reduce the accounts. We also like to use the term IOU to refer to the taxes in our qualified funds. When we ask someone about their totals in their 401ks and IRAs, it changes their thinking when you respond, I have $1 million in my account. And I respond and say, no, you don't. You probably have about $650,000 with an IOU, the state and federal governments, for $350,000. Now, what if I told you we could reduce that IOU to $250,000? You end up keeping more of your funds. The way you do that is the same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Maybe 1 year you pay 10% less tax on $50,000, and another year you wash tax on $60,000. Over time, you'll end up keeping more of your funds. Starting with the same money, you'll end up with more. The third strategy is one of our favorites to discuss. It's simply to turn the tables from present thinking to one that's in the best interest of you. It's actually based on knowing what our assets need to do in retirement and what's in our best interest. And it's been a very small percentage of the people we meet who understand this. I didn't 6 years ago. An example would be that we look at our qualified funds. We know that RMDs will require taxable distributions, start about 6% per year, and then with increasing percentages after that. Now, if we have $100 in an IRA and we withdraw 4%, that's $4 is required. We're left with $96 going into the next year. We then take a higher percent of a smaller amount. We end up getting less income the following year, plus our funds keep dropping, which starts a trend for our funds to continually provide less RMD income while our accounts keep dropping. Now, let's assume we haven't rebalanced our portfolio and the $100 is in equities. Again, we take out the $4 that are required. We have a downturn. So that year it drops another 10%. Now we have $86 the following year, much smaller RMD income. Even if the market starts to recover, we're drawing down and we're probably just never going to get back to where they were. Thus, we're setting up our assets to generate less income every year while our assets are going to continue to drop. But knowing this, we can change our approach from an approach based on managing ups and downs to one that has a criteria that works for us as we need, what's in our best interest. And as an example, what if we set up our funds and investments that are safe, but generate more than the drawdowns that are required? Let's say we can set up our funds to generate 6% growth without risk. Then we'll have our $100. It'll be reduced by 4, but we earn $6. So the following year we have $102 in our account. The following year we're going to take a slightly higher percentage of a larger number. Thus, we're going to ensure that we'll have increasing RMD income each year, while our accounts will also continue to grow. In our non-qualified funds, we look at our drawdowns as being inflation-based, maybe 2.5% to 3% inflation. Now, we actually understand what our funds need to do that are in our best interests. We have a power we never had before. We can employ simple criteria such as targeting our needed growth. Let's say it's 6%, net of fees without any risk of loss to our qualified funds. We now have the power to say no to sales pitches and options that aren't going to deliver what we want. We have the power to understand why. We have a targeted investment number. We can articulate it and why we need it. We haven't found anyone who can argue with that meaningfully. We have the power of research plus the power of patience. We can move past our advisors when we're told that they can't provide what we need. We don't have 6% safely. We start with them because of our previous relationships, but we can explain we simply need to protect from losses while growing our funds based on what's in our best interest. We can cast a broad net in our research now and use common search tools, Google, ChatGPT, Yahoo, Chrome, many others. We simply start by saying what has 6% returns completely safe. We don't find anything, we look again in a couple of weeks. We found that investments will be identified for specific bonds or investment annuities and other options that would never be presented by our present advisors. And we are the clear winners because we're getting our funds set up to do what they need to do for us. Consider the benefits of combining the 3 strategies we just discussed: rebalancing our portfolio to safer options, paying less tax, and setting up our funds to do what they need to do for us, because we now know what they need to do.